As we travel life's road, each of us can recall bright memories, times of shared love and laughter, the warmth of a hug, fun times in the park, laughing at a clown, or admiring the beauty of a bouquet of flowers. We each have our own tapestry of memories, times of being silly, and times of facing the challenge of change, loss, and grief. While each of us experiences times of great joy, we also know times of great sorrow when someone we love dies. Few of us are prepared for the depth of emotion, nor all the symptoms of grief. When we are mourning, we are confronted with a whole new reality. Our world has changed. We may feel a wide range of emotions that feel strange and frightening. It is possible to feel a sense of overwhelming helplessness. In an effort to distance ourselves from the sadness, we sometimes look for ways to displace the painful emotions. It is hard to imagine knowing pleasure and joy once again. Rainbow the Clown finds herself confronted with the death of a loved one. She shares her own walk through the pain of grief and her search for the rainbow of renewal, hope, and healing.
Hi, I'm Rainbow. I'm a clown. I came today to share a story from a while ago when this clown had a huge frown. I was really down. The light of my life was the love of my life, and everything was bright and wonderful. And then, one day, that light went out and my loved one died. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried. A part of me had died. My heart turned upside down. My world closed down. Everything had changed for me. I had all of this pain to carry around, and I'd get up in the morning and I'd go to bed at night, and it was always with me, and I couldn't stand it. So I decided if I tried tossing it, maybe it would help. Or maybe if I tried throwing it, I could get rid of it. And I still had all of this pain. So I decided to stuff it. And maybe in that way, I could ignore it and it wouldn't bother me anymore. I told myself if I kept busy, I'd be fine. So I scrubbed and I cleaned and I dusted. But that didn't seem to help. Everything in my world had changed. Even the flowers in my garden seemed to have wilted. I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. Time dragged and nothing seemed important to me. I told myself I had to be strong, and if I was strong enough and tough enough, I'd be fine. I thought if I took care of my family and friends, I'd be fine. What I learned was that I couldn't be involved with others and still take care of myself. I was really losing my mind. I felt like I was going nuts, like I was really crazy. I began to feel so crabby. My world had changed and everyone else was acting like nothing had happened. My friends started asking me out to lunch and to mess around with them, and I'd hold up my mask and I'd say, I'm just fine. But then I'd put up my no trespassing sign. I couldn't stand the idea of being around laughing, happy people. Everyone was treating me like I had some kind of a bug that I'd get over, and I was becoming uncorked. I had pain coming out all over the place. I was working so hard, and I was coming to the end of my rope. One of my friends said that I had better watch my step. I was really a mess, and they were right. I was a mess. I knew I needed to get some help. I couldn't do this by myself. I had to find people that would listen to me. I needed to talk about my pain. I discovered journal writing as a way to deal with my feelings, and you know, it really did help me feel better. I learned that I needed to get plenty of rest and take care of myself, and good nutrition and eating right were really important. Shoveling in the alcohol and the drugs just wasn't going to help anything at all. I couldn't keep the pain all bottled up. I recognized that I was going to have to change and take a lesson from the butterfly because my world had changed and I couldn't go back to the way things were before my loved one had died. Getting better for me was like little baby seeds that gradually grew and grew into a new and beautiful plant. I took time out to smell the roses and laugh and play when I could. It occurred to me that I could find new stars in my horizon. My world had changed and my goals would be different, but I could find a special place for me. I learned that I could have new loves in my life. The color and the hue of those loves would be different, but I could indeed love again. The wonder of the rainbow really lies within you and me, and sometimes we have to rebuild our own rainbows. I wish each of you a rainbow. Hi, I'm Eloise Cole, and I'm a bereavement specialist. I am also a bereaved parent. 2 of our 4 children have died, and a bereaved daughter. Both of my parents have died. Few of us are prepared for the pain of grief nor the length of mourning, and I was looking for a way to help people visualize the mourning process, and that's why I created Rainbow and her remedy. In a few minutes, you will be meeting other people that will share their own walk through grief and their look for the rainbow.
Well, my name's Byron, and it was my dad who died, and he died 6 years ago. December 13th, just before Christmas. At first I didn't really think that it was really had happened. I thought something must have been wrong, that he was going to come back or something like that. Didn't really understand.
I lost my father when I was 8 years old, and I'm 14 now. And losing my father was like really hard because I was like daddy's little girl. When I think I was 6 or 4 or 6, and he got pneumonia, and that's when they found out he had emphysema. And so he was trying to prepare us. He thought it was going to happen a lot later. He thought it would happen like right about now when I'm 14. But it didn't. He had a heart attack, and it was totally unexpected that night because we were camping out on the living room floor, and I woke up and my mom was like screaming her head off. I was totally in shock. I didn't understand. Well, I understood what was happening. I just didn't accept it. It was just kind of too much.
I came to the realization that he was dead 3 days later, and I just came apart that day. I kind of felt like that it was never going to be over at first. Going to school was like, well, it was pretty easy because everybody there understood and was trying to help. It was my family life had changed a lot because now it's just my mom and my sister and me. And I think that was kind of hard to adapt to.
People were pretty uneasy when they found out my father was dead because they didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know how to act around me. They didn't know, how to deal with it, how to deal with having a kid who didn't have one parent. People were pretty much used to divorce cases and stuff, but a father dying or anything, they didn't know how to deal with that. And most people pitied me, and I didn't like that. I don't know anyone who does like being pitied. I used to get like really defensive because people would say, they'd ask me about my father, and I'd tell them that he was dead, and they'd tell me they were sorry, and I'd tell them they didn't kill him. I started getting after him and stuff, but I don't do that anymore. I guess I felt a little bit crazy because I was kind of withdrawing. I had never done that before. I didn't tell anyone what I was thinking, what I was feeling. I was just kind of afraid that they would sit there and analyze me, and I just kind of withdrew from everybody.
I gradually was getting better, and I was more open about talking about it, and when someone would ask me where my dad was or something like that, I'd be able to tell him that he was dead without even, starting to cry or anything.
You always know it's life getting better, but it's never really over. You're never going to stop missing them. You're never going to forget them. I have a feeling when I'm 20, I'm still going to be sad because my dad's dead, but I guess it starts getting better just a couple months right after. Kids are pretty amazing because they can handle it so much better than adults. Adults are just kind of stuck in their little niche in life and they don't know how to handle a change. Kids, everything's changing anyway, so they're kind of pretty adaptable.
A rainbow to me with my father, the death of my father means new beginning and the end of the pain and everything that's gone on.
A rainbow to me would mean the storm's over and that the pain and the suffering is over and that the sun is out and you can start on with your life.
It takes a very long time for us to grieve someone we love. It may take months or years depending on the individual relationship. And that encompasses an awful lot of emotion. We experience disbelief and shock and denial, perhaps. Some of us may feel very powerless or helpless. Anger or guilt may be a part of this process. And it's real hard to imagine even getting over a loss. It comes in bits and pieces. We all grieve in different ways. One member of a family might be staying very strong and keeping busy and telling themselves that they're just fine and discounting the impact of the loss or the death on themselves. Someone else in the same family may be spending the day crying, have a hard time thinking, eating, sleeping, hard time relating to others. They may be overcome with powerlessness or guilt or anger. And so these two people would have a hard time relating to one another because their experience is very, very different.
My name is Carolyn Deeren, and I'm a widow. My husband, Jim, died April of '91, and he died of lung and liver and eventually brain cancer. While my loved one was alive, Jim, there was still this hope that death would be prolonged. And consequently, even when the doctor says it's terminal, I believe human beings have this inept ability to transcend that and still hope. It felt as though my entire being was splintered into tiny little pieces. And I was terrified because I had lost people before through death. Mother, father, a sister whom I loved, cousins, grandparents. But my loved one was, my life at this point was splintered. And it was as though everything was lying upon this ground in little pieces. Carolyn was gone along with Jim. One of the signals that I received when I knew I was getting better is when I could laugh. Because I remember the first time going out to a group and there were people laughing. And I thought to myself, how could they laugh when I was feeling such pain? And then there was this little voice saying, one day, Carolyn, you'll be able to laugh again. And I knew then, when I could share in humor and laugh, maybe just a little bit, that was one of the signals that I was finally loosening up from this frozen, and I call that the winter of my frozen dreams, because I was literally frozen emotionally and in time. And when I could laugh and start making goals for myself and looking forward to the future.
We experience grief in a number of ways. It impacts us on a variety of levels. We can have emotional, physical, spiritual, and intellectual consequences. We may find ourselves very confused, have a lot of obsessive review, thinking constantly about the person that has died. It may be hard to go back to work or school. We can't get our mind off the person that has died. It's hard to concentrate, forget things, misplace things, that sort of thing. We may have a hard time being around our friends or going places and doing things. It's hard to imagine being around happy people. For those of us that are supporting others, we sometimes feel real helpless or powerless, and it's difficult to go around the newly bereaved. We don't know what to say. Perhaps our lives are going well, and we want to cheer them up, and we feel awkward. I've learned that being a loving listener and listening to what they need to talk about has much more power and is much more healing than if we provide answers for their pain. Also, sometimes we won't go see someone, or we distance ourselves from them because we feel awkward. And presence is one of the gifts we can give the bereaved.
My name is Elizabeth Gannon. About 6 years ago, we lost our son, who was only 7 weeks old. His name was Benjamin. He died of a fatal chromosome disease, and we knew he was going to die a week after he was born. He died for us physically, he actually died about 4 times, 3 of those in our arms, but he died a lot more times than that in our dreams. He died when they told us that he wasn't perfect when he was born. He had a cleft lip and a cleft palate. He died a little bit then, and then later, a week later, when they told us he was going to die, all our dreams of his future died. And then he actually died 3 times in our arms and came back. It was very painful for us to have to say goodbye to him and then have him come back. All his future, all his plans of going to Harvard and playing baseball in the park and just the little things that you take for granted when you have a healthy baby, all of those things died when they told us that he was going to die, that he wouldn't live to be a year old. After he died, it was a very, very, very short time when people just expected us to go on with life. I can remember my husband was working at Exxon at the time, and we had this huge party about 3 weeks after Benjamin died, and nobody even mentioned him. No one even said, I'm sorry about what you went through. It was just, it's over, it's done with, that's over, and we're not going to talk about it anymore. So that was really the hardest, and that's really the time that I needed to talk about Benjamin the most, is when he first died, and I needed somebody to listen to what I was saying. So I think the impetus of my recovery was, I was a journalism major, and we had to write what's called an in-depth paper, which is you take one subject and you look at every aspect of it. And my subject of that paper was how professional people treat death. The people that are supposed to be able to help you through this, the funeral directors, the nurses, the doctors, all those people, how very inept they were. And that's where a lot of my anger came in. And I wrote this paper about the ineptness of the professionals that are supposed to know what they're doing and supposed to know how to help people. And that got a lot of my anger out. And I think that was what was really holding me back, is I was just so terribly angry at all the doctors and nurses. Not that they had killed Benjamin, but they just weren't there for us, and they didn't know how to treat people with dying relatives, and they didn't know how to treat the dying person himself. I guess the rainbow throughout the Benjamin saga has been the ability to share it with other people, that his life goes on in spite of his death, his physical death, and that working with groups like Compassionate Friends or the New Song Center now, it's being able to share it with other people, to say you're not alone. There is hope at the other end.
For those of you that are experiencing the pain of grief, I'd like to remind you of eating right and getting plenty of rest, taking time out to smell the roses when you can, surrounding yourself with supportive friends and family that can allow you to talk about your pain. Also, to avoid unrealistic expectations of what you expect to accomplish right now. Who you are today and who you will be in weeks or months from now is different. And for those of you that are grieving, I wish each of you a rainbow.
My life has known the change of many seasons. I have experienced the spring of life, love, fresh and new and bright with promise. I have come to know the warmth of a family's laughter. Life's way has taken me through the change of fall and winter storms of challenges and pain. Through the seasons, your love has been with me. I am now faced with new seasons of change. Pain-filled is our parting. Goodbye, a word I can barely stand. Yet I know that as I continue along life's way, the light of your love and the gift of your memory will be my warmth and strength. Your gift of love will remain. I know I will move through the seasons of pain and challenge with your memory locked safely within my heart.